You won't believe what happened in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Maplewood Heights, where HOA rules ruled lives as strictly as any law, and one shocking incident turned an ordinary afternoon into a mystery that had the entire community on edge. It all started when Melissa Thompson, a woman in her mid-40s with a perfectly pressed HOA uniform and an air of entitlement, walked outside to check on her prized brown stallion, Duke, who she had kept in her small backyard paddock for years. Duke was more than just a horse to her. He was a symbol of status, of superiority, of the control she exerted over everything in her community. But that afternoon, instead of Duke grazing peacefully, she found him lying motionless on the driveway, the ropes she had tied him with still intact, flapping gently in the breeze as if mocking the stillness of the animal. Melissa's scream pierced the air, sharp and panicked, drawing neighbors out of their homes. Across the street, a retired teacher named Harold peeked through his window, blinking in disbelief, while two teenage girls whispered, pointing at the scene, their phones already recording the tragedy. Rumors spread instantly as neighbors emerged one by one. Who could have done this? Why would anyone harm Duke? And most importantly, how? No signs of a struggle, no visible injuries, only the horse lying lifeless as if drained by some unseen force. The police were called, arriving within minutes, but even the officers exchanged uneasy glances, confused by the lack of evidence. Surveillance cameras on nearby houses were examined, revealing nothing unusual except for a shadow that seemed to linger near Melissa's driveway just moments before the horse collapsed. Tension escalated. Arguments sparked between neighbors who had previously exchanged polite greetings, and the HOA board held an emergency meeting to discuss the incident. Melissa accused anyone who had ever crossed her in minor disputes, her finger pointing to Jim, the man who had challenged the HOA's new landscaping rules, and then to Sarah, who had complained about the noise from Melissa's backyard. Meanwhile, the neighborhood kids speculated wildly about supernatural causes, daring each other to approach the driveway and touch the halter of the fallen horse. Social media posts proliferated, and local news picked up the story, dubbing it the Maplewood Horse Mystery, fueling both fear and fascination. As night fell, the community's well-manicured streets seemed almost sinister under the glow of streetlights, shadows stretching long, emphasizing the eerie silence where Duke had died. Melissa, consumed by grief and suspicion, began setting up her own makeshift surveillance, convinced that someone had done this on purpose, possibly someone she had offended during HOA board disputes or casual social arguments. Her paranoia escalated when she noticed footprints that didn't match her own shoes or any neighbors, leading her to believe that the culprit had entered the yard unseen. The local vet, when examining Duke's body, found no signs of natural illness or poison, leaving everyone baffled and only deepening the mystery of who or what had caused the horse's death. Tensions within the neighborhood reached a boiling point, with friends turning on friends, accusations flying in emails, HOA meetings, and private confrontations. Meanwhile, the officers continued their investigation, interviewing neighbors one by one, each alibi seemingly airtight, but none providing a clear answer. Melissa's anger turned toward obsession, and late at night, she would sit by the driveway with binoculars, waiting for someone suspicious to appear, convinced that only a deliberate act could have taken her beloved Duke. The story spread beyond Maplewood Heights, catching the attention of local news stations, bloggers, and social media influencers who speculated on motives ranging from revenge to random cruelty. Yet, despite all the scrutiny, one thing remained certain. The horse's death was mysterious, tragic, and would change the community forever. The stage was set for revelations, confrontations, and the eventual shocking truth that nobody could have predicted. Just when the entire Maplewood Heights neighborhood was on edge, fearing that Duke's death was the start of a string of inexplicable tragedies, new evidence surfaced that would turn suspicion, paranoia, and anger into a storm of confrontation and revelation. The police, working tirelessly with forensic experts, began to uncover subtle clues that no one in the neighborhood had noticed. Tiny scrape marks on the horse's hooves, almost imperceptible indentations in the soil near the fence line, and traces of an unusual chemical compound in the ground that suggested the horse's collapse was not natural. Melissa, still distraught and obsessively monitoring the driveway, noticed a figure lurking near her garage late at night on her own security footage. Someone in a hoodie moving cautiously, avoiding the camera's main view but clearly entering the property. The community's social media pages exploded with theories, ranging from a jealous neighbor acting out of petty revenge to more far-fetched ideas involving black magic. But the truth, as it turned out, was more human than anyone could have guessed. The police eventually traced the chemical residue back to a cleaning solution stored improperly in the garage of none other than the man who lived 2 doors down, a quiet accountant named Leonard, known for keeping to himself and rarely interacting with anyone. It was revealed that Leonard had been conducting unauthorized experiments with fertilizers and chemical mixes in his backyard, hoping to create a super nutrient for his own small garden plot. But a miscalculation caused a toxic reaction that released fumes just at the moment Duke approached the fence. The horse, curious and innocent, had inhaled the dangerous vapors and collapsed almost instantly. When the officers confronted Leonard, he broke down, confessing that he never intended to harm the horse and had no knowledge that Melissa's animal would wander so close. The tension in the neighborhood hit a fever pitch as Melissa refused to forgive Leonard immediately, accusing him of negligence and expressing disbelief that such carelessness could cause the death of a living creature she loved so deeply. Other neighbors who had spent weeks in fear and suspicion realized how quickly paranoia could spread, and some quietly acknowledged that they had pointed fingers too quickly, letting rumors fuel hysteria instead of seeking facts. As Leonard faced legal consequences for his actions, including fines and mandated community service, the HOA board organized a special neighborhood meeting to address safety measures, chemical storage regulations, and stricter oversight for backyard projects, hoping to prevent another tragedy. Melissa, though grieving and still emotional, slowly began to understand that accidents, however tragic, could happen even without malicious intent, and the community worked to heal fractured relationships caused by weeks of suspicion and blame. The local news followed the story's resolution, portraying it as a cautionary tale about fear, judgment, and responsibility, with interviews of neighbors reflecting on the fragility of peace in a seemingly idyllic suburban setting. Even as Duke was laid to rest in a small memorial behind Melissa's home, she vowed to honor his memory by advocating for animal safety regulations across Maplewood Heights, while Leonard, humbled and remorseful, participated in community service to educate others on the dangers of chemical negligence. The tension that had gripped the streets, spread through emails, and dominated social media began to dissipate, replaced by a shared commitment to awareness and caution. But the memory of that tragic afternoon and the lessons learned remained etched in the hearts of every resident. By the end, Maplewood Heights was not just a neighborhood scarred by tragedy, but a community transformed by a shocking incident that revealed how quickly fear can escalate, how easily trust can fray, and how even unintentional actions can carry devastating consequences. The story of Duke's death, the mystery that gripped the neighborhood, and the shocking truth that followed would be remembered for years, a testament to the fragility of peace, the power of assumptions, and the slow, painful journey from fear to understanding, leaving residents with the haunting realization that even in the quietest streets, tragedy can strike without warning, and only empathy, investigation, and accountability can heal the fractures it leaves behind.